welcome to another edition of Almost Martha. And today I'm going to be making one of my very favorite things, and that's onion rings. Onion rings! I love them. I've always loved them. I used to love to get them at Shoney's when I was a kid. They had great onion rings. And now I make my own onion rings because they're really good. I try the frozen ones, have too much batter. It's just too much. Mine are really good. My brother taught me how to do it years ago. Super simple. I've added another step that helps take a lot of the grease out, so they're really light, they're not greasy, and they sure are good. They are really delicious. So that's what we're going to make today. We're going to make Laura's onion rings. So hold on, let's go. Okay. I took 2 medium-sized onions and slice them into a nice size ring. Just think of the kind of onion ring that you would like to eat. You really don't want them to be too thin. So you want them to have a nice shape to them so they hold up to frying and also the little reheating. And I took out the centers, all this center stuff. You're not going to fry that, but I am gonna chop those up and put them in a plastic bag and throw them in the freezer. Have you ever tried to make something and you have no onion in the house? There's no onion anywhere. Well, whenever you slice an onion, whatever's left of the tops or the pieces that you're not going to use in what you're making, just chop it up, throw it in a freezer bag, put it in the freezer, and the next time you need chopped onion, you got some waiting for you in your freezer. So that's how I do it. So these are 2 medium onions, and I've already gone ahead. They're all ready and ringed. I have about 1.5 cups of flour. It does take a lot of flour. It takes more flour than you think. And now we're going to add salt and pepper to it. I'm really going to try, you guys. I never measure this stuff, ever. So I'm really going to try with you today to make sure we get some sort of measurements. So I have 1.5 cups of flour. I have 1 teaspoon of my pink Himalayan salt that I like so much. So we're going to start with that. That's 1 teaspoon. And I have some cayenne pepper. Make sure it all gets in there. For cayenne, it's really up to you how spicy you would like it. I'm going to start with a 1/2 teaspoon. That's a little more than a half. That was like a heaping. That was a heaping half. Have a heaping helping of our hospitality. That was really hillbillies, maybe? I'm not sure what that was. That was my childhood calling. Hello, Laura. So I think it's going to take a little more. So we're going to do 1 teaspoon, 1.25 teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to mix this up. And while I'm preparing this, I have just a pan on the stove of oil, and I'm going to heat that oil to about, 370 some odd degrees. I do have my thermometer handy, so I can check to make sure that the oil is hot enough. I do have a little fryer that I usually use, but I wanted to do it on the stove in case you don't have like a handy dandy fryer. Okay, so I'm going to taste this. You can use just a little more salt, I think. So 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I do like it a little spicy, so spice is up to you. Okay, I'm getting that salt now in my mouth, so that's good. I added just a little bit. A little more. Okay. All right. So now I have prepared my flour, prepared my onions. Now I'm going to pull out the secret ingredient, which is buttermilk. I'm going to put it in a bowl, and then I'm going to check on my oil. My oil is not quite ready, so we'll wait till it gets appropriately hot. Now in a slightly smaller bowl, I'm going to pour in some buttermilk. And I would say this whole thing is about, it's 1 pint. So I think I put in about 2 cups of buttermilk in my bowl here. If I need more, I can always add more. So it's just a very simple procedure. You take your onion, you dip it in the buttermilk, you put it right into the flour, coat it in the flour, and then you drop it right into the oil. How simple is that? You've already got the spice already in the flour, and now as soon as my oil is ready, I can start dropping my onion rings in. I'm gonna take a look at my oil. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's really sort of active. So I'm using vegetable oil, and how much oil you use is really dependent upon the pot. Okay, we're totally there. So there goes my first onion ring. We dip it in the buttermilk. We cover it with flour. We dip it in the oil. We'll splatter just a little bit, so be careful. And this requires a little patience. So this is going to take several batches of frying. Messy on your fingers. And as we fry this, we don't want it to get overdone, right? We don't want to make it a really hot fry because we're going to also put it in the oven. Because when we do a second cook and we put these onion rings in the oven, it's going to release the oil that is in the batter of the onion rings, and then the onion rings are not going to be as greasy. So because we're going to cook them twice, we really don't want to overcook them the first time. So you can turn them over, and then right as they're beginning to get sort of a little light brown, that's when you want to pull them up. Because we're going to finish them a bit later. So now I just take them out. I put them right on a pan that's lined with paper towels. Let them drain. And then we put in number 2. This is not something that you can make without paying it a lot of attention. So you really have to stick with it because it goes pretty quick. And as a matter of fact, my oil, I'm just going to back it off 1/10 there. It's very hot. I mean, hot's good. You want it to be frying in there, but you don't want it too hot. So watch it. Okay, doing pretty good. Now, the nice thing about this is while this requires a lot of attention right now, once we're finished with the fry, we're gonna let them drain. They can totally cool off. They can cool down. And then right before we're gonna eat, that's when we're gonna put them in the oven to heat them back up and let that oil release. So if you're having people over for dinner or something, like I'm doing tonight, then just go ahead and do these ahead of time and then just put them on the side. And then when you're ready, you put them in a very hot oven, and that does the rest. Your fingers do tend to get coated with flour. That's the way it goes. Okay? And we're just going to keep going with this process. Now, when I do this, I'll kind of start moving them around. These have already drained. I can add, a couple more paper towels to it just to keep absorbing the oil. Because while I love onion rings, I don't love all the oil necessarily. So it's good just to make sure they're drained really well. And then when we cook them the second time, we're also going to drain them again. And this is what really ensures that you're going to get a nice light onion ring. Okay. All right, we are at the last batch, the last frying batch. And the more you work, the more you do, all your flour starts to get really goopy. And I don't know about you, but I start to get tired of making onion rings. So at a certain point, you can just say, no more, I'm not frying anymore. And that's when you stop. But, and this 2 small onions make a lot of onion rings. Make a lot of onion rings. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my oil off down to 0. I'm going to let that oil cool down completely. Probably overnight, I'll put a lid on it and push it off to the side. And then I will strain it. And I'm going to keep that oil in a different jug. And the next time I make onion rings, I'm going to use the same oil. It's okay to use it a couple of times, but after that, I wouldn't use it anymore. Because then the fry stops being nice and light. It becomes really sort of bogged down. So we'll reuse this oil one time. We're going to strain it after it's completely cooled, but I'm just going to let it sit overnight. I'm going to put a lid on it, and that's it. Now these are totally ready to go. They look beautiful, and I'm sure they are and taste delicious, but I'm going to wait and eat it after the second one, because even now you see a lot of grease coming off these, but you can tell that they're going to be a little greasy. You just fried them. So what we're going to have to do is do that second bake in the oven, and I put it on about 450 degrees. If you go higher than that, it tends to burn them without really doing what you're trying to do. So about 450 degrees. I am going to turn my convection fan on, so it will seem a little bit hotter in there. But once we do that, then it's going to pull that oil, the remaining oil, out of those onion rings, and they will be light and delicious and wonderful. So we will revisit this in just a little while, right before we're ready to eat. The rest of my dinner is well underway, so now it's time to take my onion rings. I took them off the pan and off of the paper towels where it's been seeping out the oil. Now I'm going to put them in the oven, 450 degrees. I'm going to keep an eye on them. We want them to get hot, maybe a little browner. Don't want them to burn, so we have to really keep an eye on it. It really depends on your oven and how hot it is. But this is the final touch to our onion rings. So in the oven they go. As we get ready for everything else. Okay. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, they're all good. Fantastic. Now, I know I got a lot going on here, right? But now I'm going to take these onion rings. I'm going to put them on another set of paper towels. Oh, they're so much crispier. And you can see the oil that's left in the pan. So all of that is no longer in my onion rings. Fantastic. Okay, that's number one. That's number one. I'm going to grab a few more paper towels. Well, actually, I'll just do a half a sheet. I'm going to take these and put right on top. And then this is the dish that I'm going to put right on the table. So as you can see how brown they are now, they, if you overdo it in the fry, they're just going to be burned to a crisp when you do it the second time. And it's really important that you do it the second time because it really makes all the difference when we're talking about how crispy they are. So here they are, and they are so delicious. And look at the batter, it's so light and flaky. They're really hot right now, so I'm not going to take a bite, but you can trust me. Maybe. Okay, I'm going to do it. It might be really hot, but I'm going to do it. Oh, that is so good. That is what I'm talking about. Those are some onion rings, and we're still getting a little bit of oil out, so fantastic. Go to almost-martha.com For the full recipe, I'll just kind of write out all the steps for you. And you will be the belle of the ball whenever you serve these onion rings, let me tell you. So tonight we're having a nice dinner, but the onion rings is a really nice touch, and that's going to go right on the table. Thanks for joining. I'll see you next time. Go to almost-martha.com, and we'll see you soon. Bye.